And we're going to welcome our legislative delegation, Bruce Tarr, Katie O'Connor-Ives, Jim Lyons, and Diana DeZaglio. Thank you very much for coming tonight. We always look forward to your visits.
In terms of the various projects that we've all focused on, I know that we've made great stride when it comes to 114 and Merrimack College, and I think that public safety is at the forefront, but we also have to keep in mind that if we're going to really implement all the recommendations in the road safety audit, that's a multi-million-dollar investment, and we have to continue to figure out ways to make that progress successive and build on the momentum that we've had, because it's not just a North Andover challenge, it's a Merrimack Valley statewide issue, because that thoroughfare is used by so many different people. So we'll continue to focus on that as well.
Time to think about what kind of laws are going into effect. And just very quickly, the public records law went into effect on January 1st, the new one. I know that is of concern to a lot of folks. The minimum wage rose to $11 an hour. And we also saw on December 15th the effective portion of question 4 relative to marijuana, which dealt with possession and growing. And the remainder of the bill has been given a 6-month extension so that we can work out the details. That's something there's been some confusion about. The delay affects some portions of the bill, but not all of the portions of the bill. And then last but not least, I'll give you some of the things that I am thinking about in terms of legislative proposals. But that's a brief update on where we are right now on Beacon Hill, some of the concerns that we have and some of the things that we anticipate happening.
I think some of the priorities we all share pertain to the area of opioid abuse, and in October, the initial bill that we did went into effect, which required 2 weeks for insurance to cover substance abuse treatment, but there's a very smart bill that didn't make it through in the last legislative session that will be focused on to extend that for 1 month of substance abuse treatment covered by insurance. And even the bill that we already passed has some kinks in it in terms of its application. Hospitals like Anna Jakes are struggling to make sure that the insurance companies are being responsive to the intent behind the law, so we'll continue to work on that as well. And another bill that passed the Senate, which I personally think is incumbent upon us to get across the finish line in the next session, is the hands-free cellular use bill, which New Hampshire has adopted. And I know we have personal anecdotes about how many close calls there are and how dangerous that is. And that seems like a common sense thing that the Massachusetts legislature should be able to get behind.
One thing that wasn't brought up that we all strongly support is funding for our seniors, for our elders in the community. And for anybody that's watching at home as well tonight, this is something that you might be interested in. Our senior center, your senior services here in town, councils on aging, all of the services that are provided to your elder population in the town of North Andover. The state does have something to do with that. We do provide a certain amount of funding based on the amount of elders that do live in the communities. And this year, the funding for the councils on aging across the state actually went up from $9 per senior to $10 per senior.
State spending went up by 50%. However, local aid, not Chapter 70, but local aid actually decreased by 23%. And I think as a legislature, we have to really come to grips with what we're going to do going forward. And one of my priorities is to make sure that how we spend our tax dollars is accounted for. And one of the things that I've been hopping on since I was in the legislature is that we don't really have a solid grasp on where a lot of our tax dollars go.
The other thing that we all share is the commitment and investment to Berry Pond. Senator Tarr took the lead in the last legislative session, and we signed on to funding it to the tune of almost $87,000 to ensure proper staffing and to make sure that the public can access that in a safe way. And as you know, there were so many things, like Senator Tarr said, that got axed with the 9C cuts, but I think that it sets an important precedent. And what you can be heartened by is the fact that Commissioner Leo Roy is committed to properly funding Berry Pond, regardless of the changes that happen with each budget cycle.